Since 1972, video game consoles have been redefining what home entertainment could be, although at times more of a vision than a tangible product, with each new generation of consoles bringing progressively more powerful hardware. With transistors increasing pretty much in line with Moore's law, the obvious, perceivable difference to the everyday consumer comes in the form of bigger, more complex and infinitely better looking games. Every generation has those games that really push the latest killer consoles to their limits, draining every last ounce of performance from these machines. But with the ever-shifting boundaries of what exactly dictates cutting edge, sometimes it's nostalgia and not genuine quality that defines the legacy of a game. In this series, I take a critical look at these games that define childhoods, look back at the reception of the time, talk about personal experiences, and ask the question, with as little bias as possible, how good was it? Ho 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 kids, it's the Christmas special, and for Christmas this year, Wranker Score is bringing you something very different. Snowboard Kids for the N64, and it's a game very close to my heart. Now, is this really a Christmas game? There is no Christmas theming, but there is snow, and the game was released just before Christmas. Okay, it was released in Japan on the 12th of December. Us Westerners didn't get the game until the following May. But retro games are very much about the nostalgia and memories. And as I got this for my birthday very close to Christmas, it will always be a Christmas classic for me. And if snow makes a Christmas game for Ross.
Now this game isn't especially Christmas themed, but it does have lots of snow. And hey, Christmas, winter, same thing.
Then, it's good enough for me. Snowboard Kids is a strange game, developed by Japanese-based Retrotink and published by counterparts Atlas. It wasn't a game I would have touched back in 1998. I mean, look at this. Just a kids game, right? Yeah, that's the mistake I originally made. But don't let the childish appearance trick you. This is far from a game for kids. Under that cartoony facade is something truly masochistic. The year was 1998. The cold November wind is blowing across my teenage face. And although only 6 o'clock in the evening, the harsh English night had already descended. I didn't care though, because I was about to enter one of my favourite places, our local family-owned video rental store. I open the door, the entrance bell gives out a familiar ring, and I'm hit with a much appreciated wall of heat as I enter. Movies to my left, music CDs to my right. All intriguing options, but nothing was going to distract me. My destination was the video game section. I was late. The N64 had a limited amount of games, and any titles I had my heart set on renting had the yellow sticker of death. Out of stock. Damn. Blockbuster this was not. This was a small local store with very limited stock. The early bird gets the worm had never been more applicable. Top shelf, yellow stickers. Second shelf, same story, all the way down to the bottom shelf. The home of the stragglers of the litter. Disappointed, I think to myself, maybe there's an underrated gem down there just waiting to be unearthed. More hope than belief, the pleadings of a desperate madman. I take a knee to get a better look, and the usual suspects make the lineup. Sub-Zero Mythologies, GT64, some NBA game I couldn't care less about, and of course, FIFA 64. While I'm a massive football fan, I previously gave FIFA 64 a try, with it being unplayable. But then, on the end of the shelf, something catches my eye. I move in closer to see 4 cartoon kids, riding snowboards staring back at me. A snowboard game. A kids snowboarding game. Oh man. I mean, 1080 snowboarding was okay, but I really wasn't in the mood. FIFA 64 it is then, I thought. Disappointed, I slowly turned the box over to take a closer look. What's this? A battle racer? Mario Kart on snowboards? Interesting. I had a few friends coming to my house for some frantic N64 action later that evening, so this could be a laugh, I thought. I quickly secured it from the vultures circling, all in the same disillusioned mindset as me. I get out my members card, pay the rental fee, and then exit the shop to battle the bitter winter chill. The truth is, my half-glass full attitude had rarely served me well. A bad game is a bad game by any other name, and it's a thought exercise that has only ever led to disappointment. But what's this? The game was good. Hell, it was great. One of my friends rang the doorbell, and I rushed to the door, and without a greeting I said, "You have to play this game." We loaded up the multiplayer, and we were both hooked by the bright colours, fast graphics, entrancing music, and endlessly fun gameplay. The doorbell rings again, and after my friend and I argued over who's going to get the door for the final sleepover guest, we plugged in the third controller and played the game for most of the night. To be fair, we were just N64 fans starved of multiplayer games, bored of GoldenEye and Mario Kart. This was the equivalent of Oliver Twist asking for more and getting a steak dinner. Was it the greatest game? No. But it was fun as hell, and the next day playing alone, I experienced the other face of Snowboard Kids. Snowboard Kids is not a kids game. With the best I can tell, no rubber banding and relentless AI, it quickly turns into an obsession simulator with outright mayhem, one of those just one more try kind of games. As mentioned, I eventually got my own copy for my birthday. This copy to be exact, and for a game that started as a bottom shelf title no one else wanted, this game has given me endless hours of fun, alone and with friends. Looking back now, all the signs were there. My favourite magazines had already given Snowboard Kids favourable reviews. But I always found magazines of the time leant far too hard into hype rather than genuine reviews, trying desperately to erect the straw man signalling the N64's dominance over the PlayStation. All false bravado, of course. But it was very easy to get caught up in the hype, and with new N64 games being £60 at the time, £111 or $140 adjusted for inflation, lessons had been learnt and partisan reviewers were not to be trusted. I understand that was a long-winded way to tell you Snowboard Kids was somewhat of an underrated classic, but I feel it presents my feelings in the most accurate way, and I'm sure I'm not alone. None of my friends had heard of it, and whether it's by coincidence or by chance, that was the last time I saw Snowboard Kids in stock at that small rental shop. Moving on, it's time to get a less conjectured perspective. So, to the magazines. Snowboard Kids wasn't really widely covered by multi-platform magazines, mainly being relegated to dedicated Nintendo magazines of the time. And as it so happened, I have two of my favourite publications from back in the day right here. Tim Street of the official Nintendo 64 magazine gets a reward for the most irrelevant opening line that only British folk of a certain age would understand. Sliding down a snowy hill used to mean placing your freezing butt on a Tesco's carrier bag or Blue Peter sledge you'd made from sticky tape and loo rolls. Personally, we used an old car bonnet as a sledge as kids, and for legal reasons I have no idea where it came from. Great stuff from Tim. The review is very positive overall. Tim Street praises the graphics and soundtrack, with the biggest downfall being the lack of tracks available for the price of the game. Official Nintendo magazine scored the game 81%, seeming very preoccupied with the upcoming 1080 snowboarding, while James Ashton of N64 magazine had even more praise for the title, albeit without the witty opening line. James echoes my memories, calling the AI characters the spawn of the devil, and gives the game an 86%, also praising the music and gameplay, while giving the lifespan an 8, very much opposed to the opinion of official Nintendo magazine. We always like to have a look at the ports of the games covered, and due to Snowboard Kids' limited success, it's not a game that's been consistently re-released. The game did get an N64 sequel and a DS reboot I didn't care for. But apart from that, what's that? PlayStation? What are you talking about? Snowboard Kids was never on the play. Oh. This is honestly something I never heard of. Not surprising given it was a Japanese exclusive. Well, I can't get a copy, but I did find the disc ISO. So let's chuck it in the old ODE and give it a go. Okay, this is interesting. 3 extra characters, cutscenes, and yeah, some very PS1 graphics with slower gameplay and horrific popping. To be fair, this does look very interesting and something I would like to look into. But for me, there is only one Snowboard Kids. So, we will be talking about the original N64 version for this video. I shan't bore you too much with how I played and recorded the game, as it's the usual and very straightforward. As much as I would have loved to have played my original copy, my only RGB modded N64 is a Funtastic Japanese version. So it will be the NTSC version on an EverDrive for this one. Pure 60Hz goodness it is. Upscaled by the Retrotink 5X and captured in 4K. I will leave details about the Retrotink settings in the description. Right, we have talked about the game, now it's time to play the game. So grab your snowboards, your goggles and shake those jingle bells as we 1080 our way into the Christmassy but not really world of Snowboard Kids. It may look archaic by today's standards, but the graphics in this intro were perfectly acceptable for the N64. This intro has the Nintendo 64 written all over it. The console also made use of anti-aliasing, giving the image a blur effect. There are different ways to remove this, a feature purely born from CRT technology, but lucky for me, the Tim Worthington RGB board has it as a built-in feature. The look differs from game to game. For instance, I prefer the anti-aliasing in GoldenEye, but in my opinion, with Snowboard Kids, the sharper image is the better of the two. So, that's what I went with. I pride myself on knowing all the old game codes from back in the day. I was like the bully hunters of the game code world.
Hunter 77 is looking for the harasser, and it looks like she's going to use her knife, folks, and there it is.
That's pretty cringe. So, nothing like bully hunters really. I just wanted to crowbar in this sound effect.
Sexual harassment in gaming.
Finding out the cheat codes was like finding a secret you weren't supposed to know, but you know, posted in national publications. Especially when it comes to games like the Mortal Kombat code. I would think I'm getting one over on the old rents by restoring the blood and gore. But the truth is, they couldn't care less. I'm embarrassed to admit, the first time I found out about the cheat code for Snowboard Kids was while researching for this video. Analog down, up, D-pad down, up, C down, C up, L, R, Z, D-pad left, C right, analog up, B, D-pad right, left C, and then press start. Then we hear a gleeful cheer from the announcer, and boom, everything's unlocked. It's one of the more complicated codes, and it's certainly no up, down, left, right, C start. And title screen codes were pretty much a thing of the past by this point, so I think I can be forgiven for missing it. I'm kind of glad I never found this back in the day. Part of the fun and frustration I had with this game was beating the bloody ninja, unlocking all the best stuff in the game. Don't worry, we'll get to him later. I tried loading my old save file, but the NTSC and PAL files are not compatible, and I was always going to play a fresh game regardless. Then, it's onto the character select screen, and I need to have a very risque rant, because this has always bothered me. Now, I like to keep these videos as non-controversial and light as possible, so I will tread lightly, but we need to talk about the character Linda. In the interest of not leading the jury, have a look at this video and tell me if there's anything wrong with this picture. I'll point it out. Well, even though the game is called Kids, maybe she's one of the older characters. Oh. Honestly, this is something I noticed as inappropriate when I was a teenager, and I would have serious questions for the character designer. So you called this meeting? Get on with it, I'm a busy man. I just wanted to get approval on a design decision in the game, boss. Okay, well, what is it? Get on with it. Well, I wanted to put giant boobs on one of the characters, boss. Oh, I don't know about that. They're kids, seems a little inappropriate, don't it? Oh, come on, boss, I'm well into the old Sailor Moon and all that, ain't I? Well, I don't like it, but maybe you can if we put a giant jumper or coat on her or something, and I can look the other way, maybe. Well, I was thinking a bikini top. A bikini top? Yep. On an 11-year-old girl with giant boobs. You got it, boss. Right. While you're right there, I just need to make a quick phone call on the old blower.
Guilty!
I'm not going to bang on about it, because it is what it is, I suppose. A product of its time. This is a 26-year-old game. But I always found this questionable. Anyway, moving on from this very uncomfortable point. Jam was always my favourite character. I have never used anyone but him. Yeah, I'm one of those arseholes that won't play unless they can use their favourite character. Don't judge me, I know you do that too. Don't tell me you don't throw a hissy fit if you can't be the car in Monopoly. Who wants to be the stupid thimble? As for the other characters, we have Slash. No, not that one. He's the balanced choice. Nancy, built for tricks but slow. Linda, fast with reasonable handling. And Tommy, the burger-loving scamp, fast with poor turning. I honestly don't know why Jam is my favourite. He's pretty slow. A smart player would change character based on the level, but a smart man I am not. And my programming won't allow me to use anyone but my beloved Jam. We are given multiple choices in the first screen, 3 game modes, and a board shop. We will explore the other options later, but for now, it's on to the main event, the battle race. Snowboard Kids always got some level of criticism for the lack of tracks, but off the bat we are given 6 levels, all playable in multiplayer. I never thought the selection of tracks was lacking personally. I feel we were spoiled by the 16 tracks in Mario Kart. So we're going for the first track, Rookie Mountain. Sounds apt. And out of the 3 boards, Alpine was always the first choice for racing, sometimes all around for trickier courses, and to hear the announcer say, "All around!" The track loads up with a fanfare, and the action begins.
Ready?
I will never forget about the quick start. Whereas Mario Kart took precision after the second light to get a speed boost, Snowboard Kid requires bashing the living crap out of the jump button. The item pickups come in 2 flavours, the weapon for shooting the other racers and the support items. There are different levels of pickup quality depending on the position you're currently in. They will always be a matter of preference, but for me, the weapon order goes from best to worst: parachute, ice, hand, snowman, and then bomb. And they all have their nuances. Parachute is great. It shoots a target straight up in the air, slowly floating them back down, and it has reasonable tracking, best used when directly behind the target. Ice freezes the target in place and has good tracking. It's not a good idea to shoot a racer right in front of you though. Hand slows the target down the least, pushing them forward, but has fantastic tracking, even following the target around corners, and is great for clutch victories. Snowman, which has terrible tracking and bounces around, possibly hitting the shooter, but when it does hit, it's devastating, turning the target into a snowman, taking all control away, and finally, the bomb, rarely used, explodes into a giant ball, but can't be used in close proximity because it will damage the shooter as well. All weapons take practice to use effectively, but after a while they can all be useful. As for support items, like the weapons, they are varying in usefulness. The stone is pretty much useless. I seem to be the only one that hits it on my next lap. Invisible, very helpful in first place, making you invulnerable to attack. The ghost, best used in second place, slows down the racer in first. The fan, giving the user a temporary speed boost. And the pang, which is the best, the equivalent to lightning in Mario Kart, and usually reserved for the fourth place racer. And finally, the dirty rat. He steals all the money from the other racers and gives it to the user, which brings us nicely to the in-game currency. Pickups aren't free. This ain't no socialist paradise. You gotta pay to play, with each pickup costing 100G, apparently standing for get. That's stupid. So you earn get by picking up coins and doing tricks, with the take being added to your total wallet, which can be used to purchase boards. The downside being when you lose track of your balance and hit a power-up, hearing this makes me want to throw my controller through the screen. Just a few more examples from this playthrough. Now, we have a grasp on the mechanics. Let's get to the first course. Rookie Mountain is, as the title suggests, a tutorial course. It's short, which is offset by 5 laps, and it's very hard to lose. I have trouble remembering if the track was ever difficult, as I played the game so much back in the day. It's muscle memory, but there was one thing I remember really struggling with: the exit gate. I honestly can't recall why, but I remember not having fun with it. Getting in the stairlift gate is an art in itself. Once you know where it is, it's easy to glide in. But if being challenged by other racers and not in first place, it can be a melee. For me, the trick was not to hit the walls too hard and falling over. So if the gate isn't ready, the best technique is to lightly hit the wall to slow down and then slide into the gate. For Rookie Mountain, we get a rare appearance of the gate being in the middle rather than the sides. So the best you can do is aim for the racer in first and pray. When a group gathers at the gate, it can be entertaining. Countless times I saw the second place racer end up in fourth after bad gate luck, although it's not so funny when it happens to me. We get the first place straight off the bat, and after collecting our winnings, it's on to the second course, Big Snowman. Big Snowman is great, long, with 2 laps. This is the first course we get to use the super tricks. Being a product of its time, the manual was required reading for fully understanding the game. It tells us how to do the tricks, grabs and super trick, with a cheeky note telling us one trick is listed, use your imagination, there's more to be found. I found Jam's extra move in the 90s, left right, left, hold right, then release A. He also has a fantastic move, weirdly only giving the same amount of points. However, these special tricks need more height to pull off, which is why I didn't mention them in the first course, as pulling these off on any jump will leave you on your ass. In those situations, a simple jump, holding A, holding the direction, and then releasing will do the job. For more points, you can push a C button for a grab. Snowman Mountain is quite the simple track, going through some different sections, like a mini forest, and some big wide open areas, and of course, the aforementioned Big Snowman. On Big Snowman, we first see how much the game rotates the perspective of 2D sprites, giving the appearance of 3D. It's a technique I first saw in Doom, and due to the increased power of the N64, I can't work out if this is an aesthetic choice, or due to technical limitations. But either way, it's a technique used aggressively throughout the game. It was here I found the drawback of using the Alpine board, the dreaded board reverse. But overall, a great track, if not a little easy. We move on to Sunset Rock, and it's one of my favourites. It's a really nice looking level with the sunset in the background and lots of nice scenery, including rolling rocks, a coffee shop and these little penguin dudes. Awesome. Again, this is another course I can't tell whether my knowledge of the game makes it easier, but I still remember the little tricks, like avoiding the rocks, staying clear of the giant snowman's projectiles, and avoiding these mud patches to make the jump. This is the first course where we see how luck and knowing the weapons can take you from 4th to 1st. 2 well-placed hand shots and a ghost was enough to get us there. This is when luck really starts to play a part in the results. In the same race, Linda eventually claims 1st place, and we lose our first race, receiving the silver cup. We will talk a little more about the racing mechanics later on, but this is when this friendly kids game turns into something completely different. Apart from being one of my favourites, Sunset Rock has my favourite song on the whole soundtrack. And what a soundtrack. I have talked about it before, but as a younger man I aspired to be a musician. Playing guitar from age 9, I had learnt music theory by my teenage years. However, a career in music ultimately wasn't to be. But I never stopped composing music for fun. When in a band, the Wranker's favourite music to compose was rock and 12-bar blues, but nowadays, by far my favourite music to compose is electro synth and synth pop, and that is in large part thanks to Snowboard Kids. The soundtrack is fantastic, it really sets the mood for the courses, and while not for everyone, I can tell you it's very well composed. It throws me back to the days of Amiga trackers, and anything invoking even slight memories of the almighty trackers will always have a place in my heart. I won't bore you going in depth, nerding out about the composition of each track. All I will say is the soundtrack is a banger. On to Night Highway, and this is the turning point in Snowboard Kids. Narrow runways, tight turns, plenty of edges to fall off the track, and the introduction of secret passages. Everything is different. We get a 3rd place finish, our first bronze, and this is followed by another 3rd. This is the part in the game I feel the developers got absolutely spot on, the progression system. The further you get in the game, the harder the tracks become, leading to winning the race being far harder. Possible, but harder. By now we have collected enough get to upgrade our board, so level 2 it is. I had been holding off on getting the level 2 board so I could judge the progression system properly, with it working very well, and while level 3 is now available, we don't have anywhere near enough get, the game's way of saying, you're not ready for level 3 bucko. May as well visit the paint shop while here. I like wood. What do you think, producer Belle? Oh, but I like pinwheel. Cats it is. Any other notes? To test the new board, it's straight to Sunset Rock to rectify that silver cup. Straight gold, the board is working, so back to tackle Night Highway. Second, I need to have a word with that stupid dog with his stupid tongue. This board is broken. After one more try, 1st place is ours and we move on to Grass Valley. With the game slowly stepping up the pace, each track is now making the game slightly harder with each newly opened track. It's a nice course, the first one void of snow, with beautiful scenery of sunflower fields, mountainside secret passages and hillside villages. There are multiple routes you can take, but it becomes a risk versus reward situation. Where perfectly running the shortcuts will save time, I found sticking to the main route the best option. The shortcuts can be a good option if in first, as the AI racers tend to stick to the main route, but when needing to climb the rankings, sticking with the pack is the best option. Again, I will talk race tactics in a little bit, as it becomes far more relevant later. It took 4 attempts to finally get first. Definitely the trickiest course up to now, and I will admit, I gave in and bought the level 3 board as it feels like time. Back to the paint shop. So, pinwheel this time? Okay, still cat then. The final course of the regular game, Dizzyland, is my favourite design track. It's great. Based on a theme park, visually it has a lot going on. We go past the ticket office and shop area, down to the penguins on the podium, merry-go-round, teacups, water rides and big wheel. Just hats off to the designers. They did a fantastic job. The only downside to this course is the difficulty. After some rather punishing levels, Dizzyland was a bit easy going. It only took 3 runs to get the Gold Cup, and while it's not the best barometer of difficulty due to the amount of luck in the game, the course just felt much easier. Copper pass earned, and this marks a point where the game goes from a fun racer to an obsessive compulsive simulator. Now, to visually express the point I'm going to make, this is all the raw playthrough imported into Premiere. This is the playtime up to this point, and this is the recordings on the final 3 levels. Yeah, the difficulty slope in this game isn't walking up a hill, it's climbing up Mount Everest. Honestly, I can't remember playing a game with such a steep learning curve, and the worst thing is, my god, it's addictive. So, the first unlocked level is Quicksand Valley, and there is only one way I can convey the pain of this level. Roll the tape. It's the first level that I rage quit when things weren't going my way. I started to play it in the evening and ended up going to bed at 2 AM. It's madness. Quicksand Valley was the point I started to pay close attention to the AI and mechanics of the game. I always thought there was some form of rubber banding, an assumption made from other games of this type. But after this level, I don't think there is, and if so, it's implemented in a very delicate way. Rubber banding was something we saw aggressively used in Mario Kart 64. No matter your position, the AI will always give you a chance to catch up, while not letting you get too far in front. Mario Kart 64 wore this mechanic on its sleeve, making no attempt to disguise it. Rubber banding isn't necessarily a bad thing, it keeps the race competitive, but I got to be honest, I never played a map as competitive as Quicksand Valley in a racer. I can't say for sure there's no rubber banding. My coding ability can get me by, but decompiling the game and breaking down the code is well out of my wheelhouse. However, I paid close attention during the race for 5 hours while trying to win, and I genuinely don't think the race is manipulated. This is where the nuances of the battle system started to become clear. Never has the term crabs in a bucket been truer. The analogy is, you can put crabs in a water-filled bucket, because when one tries to escape, the others will pull the escapee back down, and that is what is going on here. If one of the racers gets away from the rest of the pack, it can become very hard to catch them, with the following pack all pounding each other with the weapons. It takes real skill to learn every inch of this track, and work out how the other characters race using weapons and items at the right time. The course is a problem in itself. Crazy tight turns, the AI takes perfectly every time, and the dreaded shifting sand corner. I remember this thing vividly from back in the day, and at one point I didn't actually think the turn was possible. I eventually gave in, bought and switched to the all-around level 3 board for improved turning, and it took a while, but I finally got the hang of this corner, come in wide and then cut into the corner at just the right moment. Although this was not foolproof, a slight lapse in concentration will always send you over the edge. Problem is, my adherence to jam really was my downfall. He is already a slow character, and now with the slower all-round board, the other characters were easily pulling away, so this really did become a matter of attrition. Man versus machine, and man's unwavering adherence and loyalty to this puffy-haired snowboard kid. I thought it was never going to happen, but then I got this run. Yep, all the work paid off, and for the first time in this playthrough, I let out an audible cheer, and I think this is what a good game does. Just like in the Dark Souls series, the fun is in overcoming your shortcomings, accepting you're not winning because of you, and your ability to say one more time, to put everything you have learned into one glorious run. Fantastic stuff. The truth is, with video games, I'm having the most fun when genuinely being challenged. Quicksand Valley takes an easygoing playthrough of a 26-year-old game, from forgettable to memorable, and this is where Snowboard Kids takes its final form. So, with the Silver Pass earned, it's time for the penultimate level, Silver Mountain. After Quicksand Valley, you would expect something grueling, needing you to use every trick you have learnt, but the truth is, it isn't that hard. The course itself is fine, but overall, with the reduced difficulty, it's a bit of a letdown. 3 attempts is all it took to grab the Gold Cup, and after learning which jumps had to be made, Silver Mountain is a hassle-free course, which is not something that can be said for the final course. Gold Cup in hand, the final level is made available, and oh boy, this course. To be fair, it isn't the actual course. Ninja Land is a very short and simple Japanese themed level. Aesthetically, it's very nice. The problem comes from the new character. While researching, I found this copy of N64 Pro, and this cover comes with a massive dose of foreshadowing. Yes, it's time to talk about the ninja. The ninja is a problem. This is another track I mistook for the game pulling dirty tricks to get the ninja in first, but after playing the level many times, I don't think that's the case. This is conjecture, but from what I have seen, I think the ninja just has better luck stats. He almost always picks up the invisible power-up and seems to get Pang even when in second place. This doesn't sound like a massive deal, but it seems he always has an invisible every time any player uses the Pang, and over the course of a lengthy 9-lap race, it makes a massive difference. Ninja Land takes full advantage of the pack fighting I talked about earlier, leaving the ninja to get an easy win. The key to beating the ninja, for me, came purely in taking the ninja out. Even when he's in third place, the ninja should take all your attention. Occasionally, this did lead to Nancy or Slash getting the victory, but when the ninja isn't given special attention, he will run away with it every single time. Maybe it's just because I remember this Belle trick from back in the day, but I do recall this course being much harder. Don't get me wrong, It was a massive challenge, but I did eventually edge out the ninja to grab the final gold cup and roll credits. The credits are great. They roll after each pass is won, and it's fully in line with the game's cutesy image. It's a short stage play style cutscene, showing the misadventures of Tommy, Nancy, Linda, Slash, and of course Jam. Then the curtain falls on a very, very fun experience. That isn't the end of the game, however. There is still more to be done. First, we have 3 new special boards to buy. Special 1 being my favourite, but breaks the whole game with its blistering speed and sharp turning. Special 2 is a feather, great for airtime and doing tricks. And Special 3 is... it's a useless piece of ice. Not to show off, but with the experience I've gained, I was able to win Rookie Mountain with this terrible controlling board first time. Yeah, I'm very happy with my life choices. This isn't sad at all. As for the game modes, there is an obligatory time attack mode and 3 mini skill games, including my personal favourite, the trick game. I spent hours playing this back in the day, and I still got the moves. The best way I found to do this level is to get as many points on the half pipe as possible, then leave with 30 to 40 seconds left on the clock and make sure to grind the pipe for 2 times score and cross the finish line with seconds to spare. Now this mode is somewhat of an obsession for me. I can play the whole 2.5 minutes perfectly just to miss out on the pipe. Ending the run and grinding the pipe really is a matter of luck. I'm pretty sure I got a better score than this back in the day, but this is the best I could do on this playthrough. Can you beat this? Let me know. The other 2 mini-games include a very fun shooting game. I couldn't stop playing until I got all these pointy hat bastards, and a speed game requiring you to pick up fans on the course. The time attack is the usual fare, although the use of a ghost makes it much more competitive, and that is everything. Oh wait, I forgot the multiplayer. The multiplayer was one of my favourite parts of the game back in the late 90s, and with the races just turning into outright melee, my friends and I had many hours of fun with this one. Not quite as good as late Friday nights playing GoldenEye, but definitely on par with Mario Kart 64 for me. Well, that's the game. And that means it's that time again, so with all that being said, let's rank it. We need to consider the era Snowboard Kids was released to judge the graphics. Games like Turok 2 Seeds of Evil, Banjo-Kazooie and Ocarina of Time all released in the same year in the West and all pushed the abilities of the N64, with Turok 2 even taking advantage of the expansion pack's high resolution mode. Snowboard Kids was not on this cutting edge, however it did look very nice in places, and certainly didn't look bad for the time. Sometimes, the mechanics in Snowboard Kids left a lot to be desired. The turning could be very inconsistent, and the AI very rudimentary. By luck rather than design, these elements did lead to a unique game, but overall, on a purely technical level, it does let the game down. The sound is superb. I said everything that needs to be said in the review, but in summation, the compositions absolutely nailed the theme of the game, and the soundtrack is very special. This is where the gameplay and mechanics heavily conflict. As I said, the mechanics aren't always well designed, but when all aspects of the game come together, it creates one of the most unique experiences in the genre. Not everyone loves this kind of one more time gameplay, but I personally love it. But it's a gameplay style that's very hard to pull off. In its current form, Snowboard Kids is a game that aged quite well. On the surface, it's a game that would be a very hard sell in the current day, but if you scratch below the surface, there is a fun time to be had. For anyone wanting to try this game legally, it's not easy. With no modern ports, the only way to play this version is to get the game and an N64. Problem is, the Nintendo 64 out the box does not support RGB without modding, and playing in composite on modern TVs is a terrible experience, and usually not even an available option. Of course, there is the emulation route, and while I'm not going to actively support it due to legality, it is the easiest way to play, and we are all free to make our own choices. Snowboard Kids gets a respectable Wranker score of 79%, putting it at the top of a great time tier. I made it very clear throughout this review, I have a heavy bias towards this game. It was a personal favourite of mine as a teenager, and coming into this, I did have concerns whether I could put all that aside, and the truth is, I didn't need to. Snowboard Kids stands on its own feet as a fun experience, and with replaying it all these years later, I noticed things I never picked up on back in the day. Obviously, categorising something as a Souls-like was not something back in the 90s, and I know this isn't a Souls-like, it's a cutesy snowboarder, and that is a completely ridiculous comparison. But it's the strange way this game is implemented that gives it the feeling of, this time, I can do it, just one more try. Not many games can walk this line without stepping into the realm of frustration, but this game does it with a cartoonish swagger, and that is what I took away from this immensely enjoyable, silly snowboarding game. Merry Christmas to you all. May your stockings be full, and your tidings be joyful, and I will see you next time.